Welcome to the fourth virtual Transform Summit brought to you by the Westside Future Fund. My name is John Amman. I'm the President and CEO of the Westside Future Fund, the host of our virtual summit this morning. And because we're still in the COVID-19 healthcare crisis, practicing social distancing, staying in alignment with the recommendations of our mayor and other public and health officials, we're actually doing this broadcast today from my home in Vine City. So I'm going to actually live on Sunset in Vine City. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but I want to thank you for joining our broadcast this morning, and it's being streamed live on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube and LinkedIn. And for those of us that are joining us for the first time, I want to tell you a little bit about the Westside Future Fund, which is a not-for-profit. Should be going up on the screen now, our vision, mission, and values. And we're focused on revitalizing historic neighborhoods on Atlanta's West Side. And in reflecting on the Transform Summit, which for those who are regular participants know we're usually over at the gathering spot, not too far away from my home here in Vine City, we wanted to keep the summit going while we're practicing safe distancing, but also really bring you important information during this COVID-19 crisis, especially information focused on those that we're serving in the historic West Side. And so really want to draw attention to the bulletin. And so throughout this program, lots of information in the bulletin about the participants and other things, but also a lot of great information from lots of different partners who are out there trying to help folks on the West Side, from food to health to job training, lots of things, but great resource. So if you haven't gotten this, I'd really encourage you to go to our website and grab this bulletin. And I also want to note, and we've been really fortunate to have such great healthcare clinics on the West Side that are really leaning in to help folks on the West Side. And again, to remind people, if you have any symptoms of COVID, folks are not going to want you to come in. We've learned a lot since this crisis started, but still, if you have any symptoms, I want to give you a number to call, and that's sponsored by the Good Samaritan Health Center, and that number is 404-523-6571, and this is a free call, and you can leave a message, and folks will get back to you. And we're also working closely with Mercy Care as well as the Yancey Health Center. And we're going to hear in a little while from a real leader in healthcare, not only in our city, but our state and our country, from Dr. Montgomery Rice from the Morehouse School of Medicine. So we're real pleased to have her on our program this morning. And I should say all of our participants coming in are coming in virtually via Skype. And then we have lots of pre-recorded interviews as well to kind of talk about the work of our different partners. So I want to come back again. I want to thank the Westside Future Fund is a not-for-profit, and for those that don't know, we have a board of directors, and if you look on our bulletin, I want to thank our board of directors. It's on page 48 and 51 on this bulletin is more information about the Westside Future Fund. Also, you'll see in there the team. Want to thank the team, everything you're seeing this morning. I got a great team for the Westside Future Fund. But as we reflect, back to the why of the Westside Future Fund, we stood up to focus on these 4 historic neighborhoods on the West Side, and really we have as a vision statement, how do we develop a community Dr. King would be proud to call home. And I love living on Sunset because I'm reminded just down to my right was Dr. King and Coretta's and the family home that they bought in 1965, 234 Sunset. Just is north of my home. And I'm kind of right in the middle of a lot of the great work. The Neighborhood Union Health Center, Historic Health Center, right here in Vine City. A couple weeks ago in our last Transform Summit, we heard from Dr. Ford, who's the principal of the Hollis Innovation Academy, which is just a couple blocks that way. It's actually a beautiful morning here in Vine City, a little chilly. But to the south is the historically black colleges, Morehouse School of Medicine, just to my left down Sunset. And to my, back to the east is the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Actually, we'll hear at the end of our broadcast, it's great they're standing up testing at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation. But a lot of the historic work, we often think about how do we kind of put in place the assets to help people build better lives. So we have 4 impact strategies with the Westside Future Fund: mixed income communities, health and wellness, cradle to career education, and and public safety. And we're real focused, obviously, right now on the health and wellness part. And but literally about a mile down the road is the Good Samaritan Health Center that's doing such a great job leaning into folks along with other health clinics. But to talk a little bit about our program this morning, you can see our whole program. It's on page 2 of this bulletin. And we have, as we always do, and I'll come back to it in a second, we have a devotion that's led by Reverend Vickers. And actually, I could walk about 2 blocks that way is Reverend Vickers Church, historic Beulah Baptist Church, just over there. So thank you, Reverend Vickers, for bringing our devotion this morning. And then we're going to have this morning a great panel discussion via Skype, led by Dr. Montgomery Rice, Valerie Montgomery Rice, Morehouse School of Medicine, along with Tom Andrews. One of the things we've heard a lot of questions about is what's going on with folks that are, homeless, and how are we helping them? And that's a great area that Tom Andrews with Mercy Healthcare has been leading. And then we have different updates, pre-recorded updates to hear from some of our partners. We've been hearing from Makeda Johnson, founders of Sister Action League, Maria and Tangee from Rising Expectations. Thank y'all for all the work that they're doing. The On the Rise Financial Center, we're going to hear from them about how they can help you, especially if you need to go after some of the government benefits. And then also, a big issue is all the small businesses that are suffering with the shutdown. So we're going to hear a little bit from Jay Bailey with the Russell Center for Innovation and talk more about that at the end. And then we also have as my co-host someone who's more adept at this than I am, because he used to be with WSB, Craig Lucy. So thank you, Craig. And one of the things we've really leaned into with a lot of support from so many people is, the historic Westside repopulates, because these neighborhoods that I stand in back in 1960 had about 50,000, overwhelmingly African American for the wrong reasons, segregation. Neighborhoods depopulated. The good news is people coming back into the neighborhoods. The challenge is to make sure people like my neighbor, Miss Marion, right next door, are not displaced as more people move in. And so we have an anti-displacement tax fund to help long-term homeowners. And we also, doing more and more high-quality affordable rentals. So as the neighborhood repopulates, those that want to stay in the community, and we have a great program called Home on the West Side with community retention guidelines really intended to prioritize and ensure folks from the West Side have a safe home with all the things you want in a home: good schools, good parks, access to health care, access to a great job. And one of the first programs stood up when thanks to the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation, was Westside Works. And one of the folks that enrolled in Westside Works that ended up getting a job at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium was a gentleman named Lloyd Foster. Great man. He has children on the Booker T. Washington High School as well as Hollis Innovation Academy. And he has a family home. He's a legacy Westside resident, legacy English Avenue resident. Literally, his home is also on Sunset, down the street, but on the other side of Boone. And unfortunately, his home caught fire. So that's the bad news, but we're going to have some good news at the end of this. But I think now we're going to run this story, talk a little bit about it, and thanks to our Wendy Crone with WSB that did the story on Lloyd Foster. So we're going to roll the story now, and while that story is going on, I'm going to actually walk back in my home and do the rest of the broadcast from there.
New at 5, no doubt you know someone right now feeling the pinch of the quarantine and not able to work. We found one community helping a man who is struggling to just move forward. Channel 2's anchor Wendy Corona joins us now. Well, his house has burned down, Wendy, but he says he is optimistic.
He sure is, considering all the strikes against him right now. English Avenue resident Lloyd Foster told me he has a positive outlook. And that's because despite the tough times, his community has rallied around him and his family, and so he sees brighter days ahead.
Man, my house is on fire, bro!
That was early morning, February 17th, when the Foster Sunset Avenue home since 1952 was destroyed.
The house burnt to the ground, so we lost everything.
Lloyd Foster visited with me remotely from where the home stood for decades. These pictures show the home through the years.
So I haven't had time to sit down and do a pity party.
Days after the fire, the warehouse supervisor for Mercedes-Benz Stadium also found himself without work because of the cancellation of events there.
We function on 40 to 70,000 people being able to congregate in a close environment.
With that on hold because of COVID-19, now the father of 4, who also looks after his 86-year-old mother, Virginia, is focused on rebuilding his home and his life.
I feel blessed because of the help I've been getting from the agencies in the community.
Numerous agencies showed the entire family support. Virginia was grateful for the few family pictures that survived the fire. And to fill the gap in financing part of the new home, the Westside Future Fund's Home on the Westside program stepped in to keep lifelong residents like Virginia, her son Lloyd, and his children in the neighborhood.
If we leave this community, it'll be like the end of her. She's been here forever and ever.
And they're not going anywhere. The Fosters are now living in Washington Park in a home that was sourced by the Westside Future Fund for the family. Lloyd is waiting on permits to demolish what remains on the property and expects their new home will be up and ready for move-in within about a year's time. Live in the newsroom, Wendy Corona, Channel 2 Action News.
Governor Kemp says we will ramp up testing for the coronavirus, but experts warn it may not be.
Well, I'm real happy to report because just about a week ago, actually it was a week ago, I was able to call Mr. Foster because when his home burned down, he received the appraised value from the home from his insurance company. But that wasn't enough money to build the home that he wanted for his mother and his children. But thanks to support from the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation and also via the Home on the Westside program, he's able to layer support on top of that. And so he's going to be able to build the rendering of the home you saw. So hopefully a year from now, maybe we'll have a clip of him back in his home on English Avenue. What I was really toured his property with his family and just come to appreciate, as a multi-generational resident, how much it means to him and his family to be in a community that they grew up and that they call home. And so again, thanks to the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation that helped kind of close the gap. And through our Home on the Westside program, people can apply, and through our community retention guidelines, we offer high-quality, affordable housing. And thanks to a lot of support from a lot of Atlanta corporations and foundations, we're able to subsidize that housing. We have great partners in Atlanta Housing and Invest Atlanta as well to really offer high-quality housing, both home ownership as well as rental, and something we know we're going to need even more and more of in the days ahead. So great story, thank you. And Craig, I know that's someone that you used to work with. I think we're going to go to you now to give some updates.
Good morning to you, John. You doing all right this morning?
Yeah, I'm feeling I got my Chick-fil-A. We want to make
I
sure
see that.
we usually have free Chick-fil-A at the gathering spot, so thank you. They were DoorDash this morning. We appreciate that.
Fantastic. Taking care of the crew with TMPAV and Icon Filmworks, making all of this possible for us so we can bring this virtual Transform Westside Summit. Our fourth one now, John, which is pretty awesome. And we also want to thank WSB and Wendy Corona for doing that story. Normally, John, what we do is we go over some health data from healthdata.org, give you the COVID numbers. And so we want to stay on that theme. Let's pull up this slide right here to give you an idea of where Georgia is sitting as far as a hospital resource use. So peak day, according to healthdata.org, was April 28th. All beds needed at the time was 1,805. But here in Georgia, we had 8,323 beds available. So there was no bed shortage there. And then if you look at the ICU beds needed, it was 434 beds needed. We have 590 beds, 0 bed shortage there, and 390 ventilators were needed. So when we first started this, we did have a shortage of beds in Georgia, but now we are in good position, and that is one of the reasons why Governor Brian Kemp has starting to open up Georgia, if you will. He says that we have more increased testing and we have ample hospital beds so that Georgia can handle a possible surge. If you look at this next graph here, I just wanted to point out at the top where it says containment strategy. It says after June 27th, relaxing social distancing may be possible with containment strategies that include testing, contact tracing, isolation, and also limiting gathering size. So June 27th will be here before we know it. So hopefully we can really start to ease things up here in Georgia and we will not see a surge. One thing that this COVID situation has impacted is nonprofits. And coming up here on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, which is Tuesday, it is Giving Tuesday, it is Georgia Gives Day. And a lot of these nonprofits, John, need help. We've seen just the dire situation with 30 million people unemployed, the lines and lines of cars going up to food banks trying to get food. So let's take a look at this package right now for Georgia Gives Day.
Now more than ever, Georgia nonprofits need our help. They are making sure our state's most vulnerable have much-needed meals, a place to live, and much more. In response to COVID-19, the Georgia Center for Nonprofits is hosting a spring fundraiser called Georgia Gives on Giving Tuesday Now, ongoing through May 5th. Go to gagives.org to donate what you can to Georgia nonprofits so they can continue to serve our communities and those most in need.
All of you joining us on social media, thank you so much. We want to pull up this Get Engaged slide. You can join us on Twitter at WFF Atlanta, and thank you for joining us on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. It is just Westside Future Fund. Right now, I'm pulling up the numbers on my phone. John, we have 30 comments already, so we're going to be taking everybody's comments live, all their questions for our panel. And John, I'm going to send it back over to you because we are getting ready for our devotion.
Yeah, no, thank you, Craig. And I have to say, your outside view there looks beautiful through your window. Looks very peaceful out there. Thank you.
It is very peaceful. I can't believe you're sporting a short sleeve shirt out there. It's pretty chilly this morning.
Well, I was out there for a little while. You know, I've been actually in training, so I was ready for that moment, but it wasn't a long moment. But thank you. Also, just reflecting on, you know, the COVID and a lot of what I've learned during this crisis. We'll talk more with great experts, but we know what's so important is to practice safe distancing because this virus is so transmissible, and also to be washing your hands a lot, to try to remind yourself not to touch your face. And so here, at, you know, my home, we're practicing that social distancing, keeping our hands clean. Also should say we know an early indication of the virus is if you have a fever or not. And so I've been regularly checking my fever. You know, thankfully haven't had a fever. But doing other things to, you know, to keep ourselves healthy, and we'll be hearing more about that in the broadcast. And again, you know, back to the bulletin to learn lots of information about what to do and where to get care. And so I'm in a shift in our program for those that are new, watching for the first time. As part of our Transform Westside Summit, you know, we always begin with a devotion. And this was actually a suggestion from one of our great sponsors of the work on the West Side, that Chick-fil-A and Dan Cathy originally, you know, I remember early on starting my days suggesting we do the Transform Westside Summits, and then as a part of that to have a devotion and have that grounded, kind of draw inspiration from Nehemiah. And Nehemiah is out of the Old Testament. And for those that don't know, Nehemiah is a story when Jerusalem had unfortunately fallen into disrepair. Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king and felt called in his heart to go back and help those that were suffering in Jerusalem. And it's a story of how he did that, first rebuilding the wall. And we often think of the metaphor of bricks, you know, building back to community. A community Dr. King would be proud to call home. But then also then how he governed from a real perspective of, you know, values and folks looking out for each other. And so we begin with a devotion statement, and we like to, you know, both have folks that aren't ministers give those devotions as well as ministers. And today we're going to have Reverend Vickers, and I'll say more about him in a second. But I always begin grounding the devotion by reading a statement. And so I'm going to read this statement now. And this is our devotion statement. It has become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community. Recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the Westside Revitalization effort, the time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it is meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful, with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. Now, with that said, I am very pleased that we were able to have Reverend Eric Vickers give our devotionals this morning. It was pre-taped. It's kind of, you know, met him when I first started the work with the Westside Future Fund back in 2016. His bio is in page 5 on the bulletin. This is actually the second time he's given the devotion. And I remember the first time he gave, when you meet the pastor, you can seem a little quiet, but boy, when he gives his devotion, it was very powerful. And he's a great student of the Bible and of the Word. And he has been leading a historic Beulah Baptist Church, which is such an important element in Vine City. And so he actually received his calling to go into the ministry as a teenager, and he's preached across the United States, the Caribbean, and the continents of Africa and Europe. And he's just a great voice. He has been such a great partner, and I want to thank him and the leaders of his church for how they've worked with me personally and also with the Westside Future Fund. And so we're very lucky to have our pre-recorded devotion from him this morning. And with that said, I think we're ready to roll to the devotion. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to bring this morning's devotional to you, which comes from John chapter 21, verses 15 through 19. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and to go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." One of the things that's interesting about this particular text of Scripture is that it comes after Jesus' third appearance to his disciples. Just recently, Jesus from the shore of the Sea of Galilee called to a boat containing Simon Peter with 6 other disciples who had been fishing all night long and caught nothing. And Jesus calls out to the men on the boat, "Cast your net on the right side." And when they dropped their nets, they pulled in a large catch of fish. The Bible tells us 153 in number, and the net didn't break. And John, the disciple that Jesus loved, said to the other disciples, "It is the Lord." And immediately Simon Peter puts on clothes. The Bible says that he was naked, and he jumps into the water and he swims to the shore and he runs to the feet of Jesus. Jesus then invites them to bring the great catch of fish, because he had a charcoal fire going with fish and bread already being roasted. And they sit down and they have a meal, and then this conversation unfolds. 3 times Jesus asks Simon Peter, "Do you love me?" For those who may be somewhat familiar with this passage of Scripture, you will recall that a few chapters earlier, Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times. And so now Peter is being restored, but he's unaware of the fullness of what's happening. What's happening is Jesus is preparing to install Peter as the next leader of not only the disciples, but of the movement that they will inherit. And so Jesus says to Simon Peter, "Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me?" He asks this question 3 times, and the third time Peter becomes hurt because he doesn't understand why Jesus is asking 3 times. What I enjoy about this text is that if you only read it in English, you miss the beautiful nuances of what is being said, shared, and exchanged. When you consider and consult the Greek language, Jesus asks Peter, "Peter, do you agapeo me?" And Peter responds, "Yes, Lord, I philia you." Jesus asks Peter, "Do you love me with the love that is unconditional, the way that God loves us?" And Simon Peter responds, "Lord, you know that I have brotherly love for you." Some theologians contend that this mere nuance is insignificant to how the story plays out, but I would submit that it's very significant. It's significant because Christ calls us to love on a higher level, higher than that which we are typically naturally inclined to do. Simon, do you agape me? Lord, I philia you. Feed my sheep. Simon, son of John, do you agapeo me? Yes, Lord, I philia you. Tend my sheep. Simon, do you philia me? The third time, Jesus uses Simon Peter's language, and he meets Peter where he is. But what's even more beautiful than the language that is used here is the imagery of being a shepherd. When Simon Peter initially followed Jesus, the invitation came through his brother Andrew. And for 3.5 years, Peter meant well, but he fell short. There were many instances where his heart was in the right place, but his faith was not where he believed it was. He always fell short. Jesus knelt down at the table, washing feet, and Simon Peter says, "You won't wash my feet." And Jesus says, "If I can't wash your feet, then you can't have any part in this ministry." And so Simon then says, "Well, not only my feet, but my head and my hands too." Some of you will recall when there was a great storm and the disciples looked out on the water and they determined that it was Jesus. And Simon Peter said, "Lord, if it's you, let me come out to where you are." And so Simon stepped out onto the water, and as long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus, he was walking on the water just as Jesus was walking on the water. But the moment he looked around and saw the wind blowing and the waves billowing and took his focus off Jesus, he began to sink and drown. So Simon has a history of having a heart that's in the right place, but falling short. And right here, he becomes frustrated and overcome with emotion. "Lord, you know that I love you. Why are you asking me this?" And Jesus wanted Simon Peter to understand that those who love me are the ones who do as I instruct. This is what Jesus was helping Simon Peter to understand in this moment. Is that you are now taking on the role of shepherd. Remember, chapters earlier, I was called a good shepherd. And now my expectation of you is that you too become a good shepherd. And so he says, "Feed my sheep." In ancient Near Eastern traditions, it was commonly understood that to repeat a very important phrase 3 times in the presence of witnesses was a way to seal a contract of understanding that there was a great exchange of authority getting ready to take place. And this is what we see unfolding in this pericope in John 21. But not only that, as the language changes around verse 18, Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and to go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." If we merely take a cursory look at the statement that Jesus makes here, we'll see a metaphor, but we'll relegate it to merely being a metaphor about getting dressed. But Jesus is saying something much more important than getting dressed in young age and in old age. What Jesus is sharing with Simon Peter is that when you were younger, when you were a new follower, you meant well, but you still kind of did your own thing. You would still cuss people out. You were still volatile. You had not become immersed in the ways of what this fellowship was trying to teach you. You used to fasten your belt and to go wherever you wish. You still did what you wanted to do. But when you grow old, when you mature in faith, you will stretch out your hands. This is a very important term that Jesus uses, which was commonly understood to mean crucifixion. When you stretch out your hands, when you are crucified in the same manner that I was crucified, you will go to a place where you do not wish to go. In other words, Jesus is saying the kind of shepherding that you are being called to is going to take you to a place that you will not naturally desire to go. But part of loving me means taking care of my sheep to the point that you are willing to lay down your life. Remember what I said. Greater love has no man than this. Then he laid down his life for his friends. And so, brothers and sisters, so family, if we are to be true disciples of Jesus Christ, here's what it means for us. It means that we are to care for the sheep, that we are to push for policies that protect people, that we are to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. We are to feed and tend the sheep. We are to love those as a shepherd tenderly gives care to the flock. That's a word not only for pastors, but for all of those who care about love and mercy and justice and goodwill. And as this pericope comes to a close, Jesus says, follow me. Don't just celebrate my example, but follow me. And if we were to continue reading into the book of Acts and follow Peter's journey, we see that he takes advantage of his second opportunity to follow. Still not perfect, but has a better understanding of what it means to follow Jesus and care for others. May God bless you and keep you.
Wow. Patrick Vickers, if you're watching this, thank you. That was powerful. And toward the end there, you talked about love, mercy, justice, and goodwill. And certainly I reflect in this time of crisis, what qualities do we want to lean into? And I appreciate, and I also remember first hearing about this when I was reading some of Dr. King's speeches, and you referenced it in your sermon, the three kinds of love: romantic love, friendship love, and to love your fellow man and woman as God loves everyone, that agape love. And I also appreciate in Dr. King's speech that maybe the friendship love is the easier love than the love of God, because Dr. King would say, and what I really appreciate about the inspiration is modeling that love even in the face of brutal oppression and ultimately an assassination, because he would say, he may not like the person as a friend beating him or his friends and his family and his colleagues, but he practiced that love and really set an example. And so as we think about the community Dr. King was proud to call home, and back to that agape love and how we lean into one another and help one another, because I've often reflected, God often gives us everything we need. It just, got to think about looking around us and pulling from each other. And so thank you for that great message, Pastor. And now we also, typically in our Transform Westside Summits, when we finish with the devotion, to really encourage connectivity, encourage folks to get to one another, because we know that a lot of the great work happens from people getting to know each other, sharing passion, sharing a common vision. We do self-introductions, but obviously during a virtual summit, it's hard to do self-introductions, but one of our regular attendees, Wakesha, suggested that we do a virtual introduction. Wakesha is one of the parent Avengers. And so what we wanted to do, Craig, are you about ready? We wanted to do is ask everyone who's watching the broadcast on whatever channel you're watching it, we'd love to kind of do that self-introduction by everyone typing their names in if you're watching. And then maybe, Craig, if you're still looking at the screen, you can say a few of the names. But
I'm here.
We'd love for folks to do, and just to signal we're all here, we're all present, is to just type in your name. So if you're on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, or LinkedIn if you can, especially I think on Facebook probably works the best. But if you would type go ahead and type your name. If you're watching, we'd love for you to type your name so we know you're watching, other folks know you're watching. So Craig, maybe you make sure you type your name so we know we got at least one.
Well, yeah, John, right now we have 57 comments. We have Veronica Squires joining us saying, good morning, great broadcast. Sherry Belil's joining us. Byron Amos, Reverend Eric Vickers is joining us as well. So thank you all so much. Yeah, please just type in your name on Twitter or Facebook. We have people watching us on LinkedIn as well. So just go in there. I'm going to do it myself here, John, in a moment. But while I have the floor, I also want to mention, John, you and I got to go visit the brand new Westside Future Fund headquarters at 970 Jefferson Street, which is incredible. John, what do you think of this space, by the way?
970 Jefferson Street?
Yes.
No, we're very lucky to have it, the original Community Food Bank building. So thank you, Atlanta Community Food Bank, for letting us purchase that at a discount. And thank you to the James M. Cox Foundation to help us purchase that building. And Bill Bowling, the chair of the Food Well Alliance. But that's going to be very exciting because we're going to put the building into service on behalf of the community. And so we'll be talking more about that in future broadcasts. But during this COVID crisis, because it's a big building, how we can bring some of the assets of that building online to really help the community. Right now, I know later in our broadcast, we've been using it to distribute food, kind of in alignment with its past.
Yeah.
And also, stage our volunteer corps. So, we're excited about that building. And I know also, I think we wanted to, reflecting all the names, unfortunately, we know during this COVID-19 that some people were not able to type their names because, unfortunately, they have passed. And I think a lot of folks have known folks that have passed. And I think, Craig, maybe we could just take, a moment of silence because we all might know someone or certainly know someone that knows someone that has passed prematurely because of this COVID-19 virus. Mm-hmm. And so we could just for a few moments, maybe everyone can just take a moment of silence and reflect, say whatever prayer feels right for you. I'm going to take a moment myself and just kind of bow my head and just in remembrance for those that have suffered and unfortunately passed. Thank you for that moment. All right, sorry about that. I tried to end that moment a little too quick. So thank you for joining that reflection. And back to that agape love, someone that really has practiced that, and she's been in our previous videos, is Makeda Johnson, founders of Six Action League, long-term Vine City resident. She really leans into that agape love. She practices what she preached with her sister's action. Here's their card. And we have a pre-recorded video. We've been checking in with Makeda. She's been modeling, practicing what she's preaching because she's in the risk group, so she's been keeping herself safe at her home in Vine City, but doesn't mean she hasn't started working hard. So I think we want to get an update from Makeda on what she's leaning into with Sisters Action League. So let's roll to that video. Hey, so this is John Alma on Wednesday, 2 days before our Transform Westside Summit. I walked around the corner, practicing social distancing still, checking on my neighbor Makeda. A little bit of a rainy day, but she's out on her front porch, founders of Sisters Action League. And so Makeda, tell us what's been going on the last couple of weeks. How have you all been continuing to serve the community?
Well, we have been extremely busy. We've ramped up our production of care kits and expanded a little bit beyond the seniors, although we're maintaining the social contact with them via phone. My team is calling seniors every day just to give them a voice. Sometimes
right.
all they want is a voice.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a good connection.
Assessing their needs and giving them the resources as they are available based on their needs.
Right.
We're working with other organizations in the community. If you see in my hand, I have a face shield.
Yeah, that's cool.
That we received from Reverend Becker of Integrity.
All right,
so that our frontline people that are going out delivering our kits door to door can be very well protected.
And I know from you're working with a couple others you mentioned to me.
Huh?
You mentioned a couple others you're collaborating with. You said
yeah, I'm collaborating with Historic Westside Gardens.
Right.
Vine City Civic Association,
right.
English Avenue Neighborhood Association,
and
Greater Vine City Opportunity Program is at the table.
Higher Ground, right?
Higher Ground is at the table. Cosmopolitan AME is at the table.
Wow.
So this is a community-driven alternative to go back to work.
Okay.
Go back to doing what you do, and while people are still dying.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that our community is the most vulnerable community.
Especially our seniors, right?
Especially our seniors. especially an emerging homeless population that's in
Right.
our community
Right.
that endanger everyone.
Yeah,
so
I know.
we have to do something.
If folks are watching this, they're seniors on the West Side, and they want to reach out to y'all, what's y'all's number to call?
You got it.
Oh, we got it. So we'll post it because we both don't remember.
Please
we'll
post our number.
All good.
The number will send a direct text to me.
Right.
It goes out to our community,
Right.
so that we can assess what the needs are and respond.
Right.
Please help us.
Right.
We have care kits. We're doing 200 a week right now.
So what kind of help do you need? What would be great for people to...
We need masks.
Masks.
Desperately. Even though I've been trying to make them, other people in the community are making them. We cannot.
Like you could use a couple hundred masks, right?
I need at least 200 a week.
200 a week, okay. Wow, I know people out there that are making masks, so if we can help with that, we'll get you, maybe 2 weeks from now, we've gotten some donations, gotten you some masks, that'd be fantastic.
That would be fantastic. Our kit has hand sanitizer in it.
Right.
It has some wipes in it. It has gloves in it.
Right.
But what we're low on right now
is those
the
masks. Well, thank you, and we're in kind of our last. Anything else that I didn't ask, Makeda? You want to make sure people hear your voice? Anything you want to make sure we convey to viewers out there that are watching this?
This is no joke. This is no joke. I've known 5 people who passed from this challenging disease. No matter what anyone says, use your common sense and protect yourself and your loved ones.
All right, well, those are great.
Keep your distance.
Great closing. Use your common sense, protect yourself and your loved ones. Keep your distance. Well, I'm keeping my distance, practicing social distance with you, Makeda, so I'm going to wind up our interview again with gratitude to you, and please thank everyone on your team. I know everyone's working hard, so thank you and stay safe.
Gotcha. Y'all stay safe now. Stay at home, social distance, wash your hands, don't touch your face.
All right, thank you, Makeda. Thank you for showing that agape love. And that number that Makeda and I couldn't remember, but now I have it. It's 888-524-7143. So if you're a senior on the West Side, I want to lean into the Sisters Action Team led by Makeda, 888-524-7143. And if I sound a little muffled, it's because I was practicing. What they recommend if you go out is wearing a mask. This is actually a mask that Makeda made, so I had this over while I was talking to Makeda. It's a great looking mask, but it muffled my voice a little bit while I interviewed her. And also want to thank, I was able later in the day to deliver 75 masks that have been donated to us by Iris Feinberg, someone who's been making masks. And so thank you, Iris, for those masks. And she's going to got more coming, Makeda. And for those who haven't read it, there's a great essay. It's in the second to last page of our bulletin, written by Makeda, called "Fulfilling Our Vision of the Beloved Community." It's and I'd really encourage you to read that if you haven't, where Makeda really does a great job of articulating how to do revitalization in the context of that agape love that Pastor Vickers talked about. And so, Craig, I think now we're going to go, back to, I know you've been helping out. We've been, led by Raquel Hudson on the Westside Future Fund team, about how we're leaning into our volunteer corps, but also residents to both, pack food and give food to residents, especially those who are practicing, safety, our seniors, making sure that they get groceries. So I think you're going to have a story. Give us, we did this a couple weeks ago.
Yes,
We have an update, right? It'd be great to see.
Yeah. During this pandemic, the Westside Volunteer Corps has really committed to helping those in need, and they have been packing groceries. And so every Thursday at 970 Jefferson Street, they've been packing these groceries. And then while we were there, John, we saw all these cars pulling up, backing in, loading up those groceries into the back of the car so that they could then be delivered to families who really need it during this time. So Raquel is actually joining us during our live show. I saw her check in here on Facebook, and I did have an opportunity to interview her. Another, we're going to get into this about our Facebook group, but if you guys want to tell any story, you can do it right here. So, John, I pulled out my iPhone and talked to Raquel. So let's go ahead and roll that story.
Well, today we are packing groceries for our grocery delivery program. We have the food brought in via our partnership with the Atlanta Community Food Bank. They come in the morning. We have volunteers as well as Westside residents helping us to sort and pack the food. And then we have more people coming in the afternoon, and they help to deliver it out. And so over here we have someone who is getting loaded up now, and they will go out and deliver this food. It goes to people in our multifamily units, as well as residents living in our anti-displacement tax fund units, and also just general people in the community who have reached out to us saying they're in need of food. You see the need and you wish you could do more. But we come in here and we say we're going to do what we can do. And everyone has just really pitched in. We have people that are coming week after week because they do find it rewarding. If you're in need of food, please let us know. You'll send an email to volunteer@westsidefuturefund.org. And if you want to come out and help us, you can also email that same address and come out and help on Thursdays.
All right. Thank you, Craig, for that video. Thank you, the Westside Volunteer Corps. Well, I should say, as a part of that, and thanks to folks on the board of directors of the Westside Future Fund and others like AT&T, we've been able to, raise a little bit of funds. And one of the things we actually do for residents in the West Side that may need work, some of the folks that are helping are folks that we're able to pay and also help pack food and deliver food to their neighbors. So thank you for covering that. And now I'm real pleased to turn to the next part of our broadcast, which is our live Skype interviews with our panelists. And we have two great panelists this morning. I'm very lucky to have them because they're both really, really, really busy in what they do. So thank you to Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice, and thank you, Tom Andrews, for joining us this morning. Also thank you because they had to take time out yesterday to get ready for this broadcast. And their bios are on page 8 is Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice of our bulletin, and on page 7 is Tom Andrews. But Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice is the president and dean of the Morehouse School of Medicine, and Tom Andrews is the CEO of St. Joseph's Mercy Healthcare. And they're both not-for-profits. Back to that Georgia Gives Day, if you want to donate, they're both very worthy causes, so we'd encourage you to do that. And I think what we're going to do in this broadcast this morning is we're going to first start, I'm going to do a couple of questions of Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice, and then we'll go to our next panelist, Tom Andrews, and once I've done a couple of questions with each of them, Dr. Valerie Montgomery first, and then we'll go to Tom Andrews, and then Craig will come back to you. And folks who are watching, we're going to take a few minutes to take questions from the live stream. And so we'd encourage you when you're listening, but especially being on the historic West Side. Now I'm ready to turn to Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice. We really want to hear from you now, Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice, and especially, and we heard a couple weeks ago from one of your leaders at Morehouse School of Medicine. The things that Morehouse School of Medicine is doing in this COVID crisis. And so I think our first question, I know especially, I hear a lot of this, and I know you hear it so much more than I do, that the inequities on the historic West Side have just made a lot of the residents here just much more susceptible, unfortunately, to the virus. So we want to talk a little bit about that. But first, just start and just share with the little folks who are watching, what the Morehouse School of Medicine is doing right now in this COVID, both kind of in the near term as well as both kind of the long-term issues that we're facing. And thank you again for being on our broadcast. And I should also note Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice is on our board, and so thank you for that service as well.
All right, great. Good morning, John, and to the audience of the Westside Future Fund. Thank you for all that you all are doing to keep Atlanta and Georgia safe. So, Morehouse School of Medicine has been really focused on a couple of things. In the short term, we've been doing all that we can do to support our community. And really that is, we start with our Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy several weeks ago as everyone was transitioning to the academic virtual learning. We made sure that we could support families who would need technology, who needed food, who needed supplies, because we have been a partner of that school for many, many years, and we want to make sure that our kids not only were able to learn, but we're also able to be supported with meals and other things. And that is something that's ongoing. Our students and our faculty have set up a fund to continually support Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy families. We've also seen, of course, at Morehouse School of Medicine, since we have people on the front line. Of course, we're at Grady, we're at the VA hospital, we're at Choa, we're at some of the WellStar facilities. We've ensured that our frontline workers, mostly physicians, but staff people that support them, administrative people that support them, that they have the proper equipment that they need to be able to give care. And then as we think about how we can contribute to taking care of this disease or eradicating it, we've been, of course, following all of the CDC guidelines for social distancing, wearing our masks, checking our symptoms, but we've also been in the research lab. Our researchers, particularly those who are virologists and infectious disease experts, have been looking at what we call the envelope of the virus and doing testing against it. And also we have several compounds that have been sent to other laboratories to test against the virus to see if we can decrease the replication. So we have been hard at work thinking about what we can do to make a difference.
Amazing. So, one, you'll have a great partnership with the Tuskegee Airmen's Academy and the historic Booker T. Washington cluster. And I know from tracking some of the results, it's one of the fastest improving schools in APS. So y'all's partnership is clearly making a difference, Dr. Rice. And thank you for the other thing I heard you about how your physicians are serving, your healthcare workers are serving, but also on the cutting edge of research. But I know you've spoken about this nationally. I know you've been on CNN and others, and maybe you can reflect on this in a minute. Is we know from the data so far that this virus is disproportionately affecting the African American community. And Dr. Rice, why is that? Why is it hitting the African American community harder than maybe other populations in America?
So let's start with some of the basic facts. First of all, this virus does not discriminate. Everyone is susceptible to this virus. If you come into contact with droplets or touch a surface that has what we call fomites, where the virus is sitting on there and has not died yet, you will contract potentially the virus. Now, what happens to you when you contract the virus is what we are really seeing the challenge. So if you think about health disparities we define as, you have a higher proportion of a group who have a disease versus a group that does not. Why do we see these health disparities? Well, they are social, they're behavioral, they're political, they're economic reasons as to why we see disparities. And yes, they are long-term. And we know that we want to move from being able just to catalog all the differences in diabetes, hypertension, asthma, liver disease, heart disease, that we see that disproportionately impact African Americans or underrepresented minorities compared to Caucasians. But when you have those chronic diseases, we know that your body already is challenged. You already have a higher burden of disease. COVID-19 appears to give what we call a cytokine burst, where we see more inflammatory cells that come around and they will attack different parts of the body, like your GI system, like the lungs, like the kidney system. So if you already have a problem or a disease that's impacting those organs, you can imagine if you layer over COVID-19 with that, you're going to see a higher rate of what we call morbidity and mortality, death and complications, or complications and death. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So you have a compromised system that is now being attacked by a virus. And of course, you're going to see a worse outcome. So that's one of the reasons that we're seeing this higher rate of death and morbidity, more complications. Now, you may ask the question, well, how do we get beyond that? Well, first of all, We've learned a lot about the virus. We know that social distancing is working. So the basic things that we've talked about, sheltering at home, wearing your mask, washing your hands frequently. And then what we have to do, though, you all, is that we're going to have to test more people in those areas, in those communities where you know you have a higher concentration of people who have more burdens of disease, more diabetes, more hypertension, more heart disease. We should be directing more testing to those areas so that we, first of all, know who is infected. And then we can do what you heard about the tracing. We can understand who those persons who they have come into contact with, such that we can then reach out to those individuals and determine if they are at risk already for the disease or whether they have already been diagnosed or already caught the virus. You can only do that, you all, if you test more.
Well, thank you. So I heard some great information. And one phrase I want to come back to, Dr. Montgomery, is you noted the virus does not discriminate. But unfortunately, if you're in a community that has, I think you called inequities, healthcare inequities, you're more susceptible. I often think on the metaphor, if you have a home that's near, a tsunami wave and that home is not on strong foundations, when that wave hits or that hurricane hits, it's more likely to be blown away. And I was actually watching a broadcast earlier this week. Dr. King's daughter was doing an interview, Bernice King, with Deepak Chopra, and he noted that a huge predictor was zip code, because zip code in our country, unfortunately, often reflects those disparities. And maybe you can just know that's something you've been really studying. Where do these disparities come from, and how do they happen? And then also you've been on some leading panels advising people. There's both the short term, some things you talked about with testing and other things, social distancing, but then there's the long term of addressing these healthcare disparities, because they've been going on a long, long time, not like they just happened.
So, clearly we have had systemic challenges for multiple years, many years, of individuals who are underrepresented minorities who have a challenge with access to care. So that's one of the biggest issues. We have known that if you have, let's take for example, breast cancer. We know that the best treatment for breast cancer, the highest chance of success, is if you're detected early, okay? The earlier you detect it, the higher the chance of you being treated and then having a great outcome. What we found out, and I'll just give this example because it's so clear to me, that back in 1965, when CMS and whoever decided that they were going to start covering mammograms, okay, covering mammograms to detect breast cancer. Now, everybody over the age of 65, a woman, could get a mammogram. What they found out, though, if you lived in zip code 33801, and there was 100 women who lived there versus another zip code, and there was 100 women. But in the first zip code, you only had one mammogram machine, and then in the other zip code, you had 5 mammogram machines, and everybody was eligible to get a mammogram. What happened? The place that had 5 mammograms, the people got their mammograms more regularly and earlier, such that if they were detected, breast cancer was detected, it was detected sooner, and they could get treatment. And so when we started to cover mammograms in this country, we began to see a widening of the gap of the mortality between Black women dying versus white women dying. And it was mostly at that point about access. Luckily, with groups like Susan J. Komen and others, we've narrowed that gap. So now all women can really get mammograms if they need them. However, we got beyond access, and that allowed us to start looking at biological differences. So the first thing that we were able to see was that there was an access issue. We solved that. And then we could focus on, okay, now why is it that Black women are still dying from breast cancer at a higher rate than white women? Because we know that there are some biological differences. Black women tend to get something called triple negative breast cancer at a higher rate than white women. So now that we know that, we need to direct resources to really study triple negative breast cancer. So if you take this analogy to the COVID-19, okay, we know that because of systemic issues of access to care, that people who were diagnosed with diabetes or diagnosed with hypertension or diagnosed with heart disease, they have a lower chance of lower opportunities to be able to go to their provider and get the care that they need. So their diseases become chronic diseases, and they're always playing catch up. So if we could change, if nothing else, access to care, we would improve the outcomes. And then we have to look at what are the things that increase your risk for those diseases. So lung cancer is obvious, don't smoke. Diabetes, you got to lose weight. You got to exercise more. So then there are behavior things that we must lay on top of this that will actually improve people outcomes when they're diagnosed, but also prevention. And so if you add COVID-19 to these systemic challenges, particularly the COVID-19 availability to testing, you again see that you have an access problem because we're not necessarily directing testing to those communities that have higher rates of these diseases, and we need to do that. And equally important, and this is where the systemic thing comes in. It's sort of like the tsunami that you talked about. It is very difficult to socially distance when you have 10 people living in your home. It is very difficult to socially distance when you are the person on the front line working at the grocery store, or the person who is ensuring that the mail gets delivered, or who's ensuring that the packages get delivered, or you are doing some type of work at a hotel where you're taking care of the cleaning of the hotel. It is hard to social distance in those jobs. And we know that Hispanics and African Americans are ones who tend to have more of those service jobs. So not just taking care of our healthcare workers, we also need to ensure that those individuals are tested and tested regularly, such that when they turn positive, because remember, the virus doesn't discriminate, they have the opportunity to quarantine or to get access to care so that they can improve their life and the lives of their family.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. And one of the things you said repeatedly, and we're grateful for your service on the board of the Westside Future Fund, because one of our impact strategies is health and wellness, and you talked about improving access. And I know later in the broadcast, we're talking about, because I clearly hear you saying improving access, back to your example about the breast cancer testing, is we want to ensure equity on testing, especially, as you noted, those that are going back to work in the service line industries. And as you noted too, a lot of folks on the West Side are crowding up into one home, or either they live or they own. So improving access, and I know you've given a lot of voice to that. So thank you for that answer. And we're going to come back to you, and I know we're going to take some live questions, Dr. Montgomery. So I'm sure folks are going to have some questions for you, and we'll come back to you. But I wanted to now turn to the other panelists we have, Tom Andrews, who's the CEO of Mercy Care. Again, his bio is in the bulletin, and we're going to show a short video about Mercy Care. But I want to appreciate, because one of the things we've heard, and I've heard, is that folks are very concerned on the West Side, about folks who are homeless or become homeless, and how are we serving them in this COVID. And back to that, you want to talk about inequity for someone that is homeless in terms of being able to properly care for themselves. And so now I think we're going to start with the video to kind of introduce Mercy Care and the great work that they do. So I think we're ready to roll to that video.
Here at Mercy Care, we are actually restoring lives.
Mercy Care exists to provide health care to those who don't have another option or avenue to get the care that they need.
The concept is holistic care to provide a comprehensive health home for patients. When a patient comes in, they may come for one thing and find out that they need something else. It alleviates the need to go from one practice to another.
In the case of people experiencing homelessness, small problems are going to turn into big problems. The patients who've been living with pain for years, a lot of times getting over the hump of that nagging tooth infection can be a big step in their lives.
Once you restore that patient, you'll notice that their whole demeanor and their whole attitude changes.
We help people get back on track by improving their mental and physical health and their sense of worth.
All right, great video. Actually, the Office of the Westside Future Fund, we're lucky enough, thanks to Bruce Deal and the City of Refuge, to have our offices at the City of Refuge, and that's also where Mercy Clinic has a healthcare center that they operate, on the West Side. But I think now, Tom, that you're with us, one of the things we'd just love to hear is what is Mercy Care doing right now? Talk about the work that Mercy Care is doing in COVID-19, especially some of that, Dr. Rice earlier talked about, population that are really facing healthcare inequity, lack of access.
Yeah, thanks, John, and thanks for asking us to join today. It's been a difficult time, but I think to a certain extent, we're excited to be fully in play with regards to all of our clinics being open. Just as a backdrop, too, about 80% of the people we serve are minorities, 65% are homeless. About 82% live at or below 100% of the federal poverty guidelines. And then back to Dr. Rice's comments, 75% of our patients are uninsured, so access is a significant issue. We serve about 20,000 patients a year, 60,000 office visits across 11 clinics. But I think the thing I'm most proud of is we have a lot of wraparound services that include HIV prevention and testing, an HIV primary care program. We have recuperative care programs for men and women experiencing homelessness that are being discharged from the hospital that allow them to recuperate from their hospitalizations. And then we do a lot of outreach. We have a street medicine team that hits the streets 4 nights a week, and then a CHOP team that go out during the day just to really connect with the people that are unsheltered and street bound. But back to your question, John, this has kind of turned our operations upside down in some ways. We're operational, but our volumes are way down because, of course, people are staying at home as they should be. And we're trying to focus on really reinventing ourselves. We've implemented a lot of efforts around telehealth in both our behavioral health and primary care programs. Our providers are on the phone reaching out to the most vulnerable of our population and really trying to educate them and provide oversight with regards to what they should be doing to keep themselves healthy. We've, like Dr. Rice, also been concerned about our workers, getting them tested, making sure that they're following all of the guidelines that they should be to stay safe. But I think really the most significant thing we've done is really a significant partnership with Fulton County and the CDC. We were approached by the Department of Public Health, really concerned about the sheltered and unsheltered homeless population in our community and their extra vulnerability because of the fact that they do suffer from a lot of chronic diseases and they're exposed in different ways by living in congregate settings. And so Fulton County gave us a large grant to initiate mass testing. And since April 7th, we have done over 2,100 tests in the homeless community. 7 of the major shelters, almost all of those people living in those shelters have been tested, as well as 7 different locations where we teamed up with churches and other homeless service agencies that were providing food, and we provided alongside that food access to testing. So since the April 7th, we've tested 2,100 people. We've also partnered with Fulton County. They've been out testing as well. A grand total of 2,800 individuals, homeless individuals, have been tested by both Mercy Care and Fulton County. It's a significant focus that I think couldn't have happened without the partnership with Fulton County and the CDC. I will point out that 85% of the people that were tested were African American, Black or African American, and 90% of the positives that we have come from those tests are Black or African American. So we're excited to be able to provide the testing, but as Dr. Rice also said, we have to retest. We have to keep staying on top of this. So starting today, we're starting to go back to some of the shelters that had the highest incidence of positives. And we're also implementing some testing in some other shelters and other service areas where the unsheltered homeless live.
Yeah, that's, back to Dr. Rice's point. So thank you, Fulton County, because what I heard you say is one of the reasons you're able to do the testing is thanks to support from our Fulton County government to be able to do testing for that very hard to reach population. And I know from talking to you, Tom, that one of the not-for-profits you partner with is Partners for Home, especially to offer supportive housing, transitional housing, and support those that are homeless. But I know y'all did some exciting things to kind of, well, I don't know if it's exciting, but really trying to get ahead of caring for the homeless, where you worked with Partners for Home on renting some hotels and stuff. Can you tell folks a little bit about what you're doing with Partners for Home?
Yeah, it's a really good point, because we didn't want to launch the testing until we knew what we could do to actually provide housing for the people that would have to isolate if they were positive. So over the course of the last 4 weeks, Partners for Home in the city of Atlanta and the state received funding to bring up 2 hotels. The first was an isolation center hotel in downtown Atlanta, which now houses over 40 individuals who've tested positive through our testing, and they're able to stay there and isolate during the recovery of their coronavirus. They also have good medical oversight in those hotels to make sure that if those people do in fact get sick from the virus, they can be transferred to the hospital and be taken care of at a higher level. In addition, this is, I think, is important and even more exciting in some ways. A second hotel was stood up about a week and a half ago, and this is what we're calling the Healthy Hotel. And this is where our outreach teams are going out and identifying highly vulnerable, unsheltered, homeless individuals who are over 65 or who have chronic conditions, and we're transferring them to this Healthy Hotel, testing them to make sure that they're not positive, and then keeping them in the hotel during this crisis to make sure that they're safe. They have a lot of oversight, a lot of support services, and actually Mercy Care is setting up in both of the hotels kiosks where we can actually, through telemedicine, make sure that they're being taken care of from their primary care and their behavioral health needs.
Yeah, that is amazing work, and I was so impressed when I heard it the first time, and thank you for sharing it. Thank you to Partners for Home and the other partners as well that you mentioned. I have, a question. So often when I leave my home in Vine City, unfortunately, if I'm out running or biking around the neighborhoods, I may see folks that look like they may be homeless. Maybe I'm concerned that they may have the virus, and I want to make sure someone knows about them. Back to the access issue. Could I call Mercy Care? You talked about you had some outreaches. If I'm concerned about someone, if I see someone, maybe I see them living in one of these abandoned homes, a family, unfortunately, and I'm like, wow, I hope they're getting tested. I hope someone's out reaching them. Is there a number people can call if they have that kind of concern, if they see something they're worried about and want to make sure someone is reached out to?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the people that respond to those kinds of concerns from the community is our street medicine team and our community homeless outreach program. Again, they operate during the day and in the evening hours. You can reach, not them, but you can reach Mercy Care at 678-843-8500 and just ask for either somebody from the CHOP team or the street medicine team, and they can pass that information along. I already have gotten some good feedback from the Westside. Our street medicine team has been out there this past week trying to respond to some of the calls that I've already received.
Yeah, thank you. And I know a lot of folks on the Westside are real concerned about that, so thank you to your street medicine team. That is terrific. And I know now if Dr. Montgomery Rice and Tom, if you're about ready, and Craig, I think we want to shift to some questions from our live feed. So Craig, hopefully some questions have been coming in.
Yeah, John, right now,
yeah.
A lot of questions are starting to come in, and just so you know, we already have 156 comments just on Facebook alone. So thank you to everybody who has checked in. Reverend Kenneth Alexander, who joined us for one of the summits and did a devotion, said that Morehouse School of Medicine has saved lives by giving fact-based information to pastors and churches. And we do have a question from Virginia Hepner, and this is for Dr. Rice. And Dr. Rice, she'd like you to comment on how training doctors in this environment has really changed to keep them safe.
Thank you for that question. And first of all, let me congratulate Tom and the team for the great work they're doing with our homeless population. And I hope that, you know, sometimes it's hard to get homeless individuals to come into a setting. And now that we have them in settings, I hope that we can use this as a springboard to actually work with them to look at the issues that got them to becoming homeless, deal with some of their medical and mental challenges that they may have so that we can get them back to a life of recovery. You know, sometimes a crisis gives you an opportunity. And so I hope we see this with our homeless. And I know what I'm seeing in the city of Atlanta is that everybody understands how much we have to care in order to care for our homeless. So thank you for that. So it has been challenging. It has been challenging to figure out the balance of how do we keep our learners safe? How do we have them have this opportunity of understanding this crisis, this pandemic, and learning in this pandemic? Because there will be another pandemic. So this is sort of a good platform for learning. And so what we initially have had to do, and all medical schools did this, we pulled our 3rd and 4th year students out of the hospitals because we were concerned about the frontline workers having access to the personal protection equipment. Luckily in Atlanta, you know, Home Depot and so many others, researchers stepped up and gave equipment like masks and gloves and shields, etc., because we use them in our lab. So the first thing we had to do was make sure that we were not using personal protection equipment on 3rd and 4th year medical students who are more in a hands-on but observant mode versus the frontline workers. Now we feel that we have that under control. So we, along with other institutions, are figuring out how we begin to get those 3rd and 4th year students, our PA students, back into a clinical setting. They probably will not be directly taking care of COVID-19 patients, but they will be taking care of all the other patients that are part of their learning. Now, they will, though, still be needing masks, etc., because we have to assume everyone is positive until proven otherwise. So the goal is to get them back into, in a phased way, back into the clinical setting. Because as much as we like Zoom and much as we love our virtual platforms, at the end of the day, you cannot learn all of the clinical competencies online. As well, you will never learn, I believe, the cultural competencies and the cultural humility that is required for you to be a great healthcare professional. So we are working now and have a phased plan over the month of May to get our students back into the clinical setting.
Wow.
Well, great answer, Dr. Rice. I do have another question. This is from Sherry Beulah, and she says, Dr. Rice, what are some strategies that are coming into play because the zip code already tells the issues, and how are we triaging these communities with proper care, with a sense of pride residents are comfortable to accept that type of care? Again, from Sherry Beulah. Dr. Rice.
Thank you. So one of the things that we have been, and I serve on the mayor's task force for reopening the city, and it's been really, really good information that has been shared, and so that we can hopefully inform some recommendations to the mayor. And so I thank for the opportunity to be able to serve there. And there's a very diverse group of individuals on that platform or on those committees. And so we're getting to hear the challenges across many communities. I think one of the things that's really clear is that people are going to have to feel comfortable and empowered. And again, I think one of the key ways for people to be empowered is to know their status. Now, it is correct that your status of being positive or negative, if you're negative, it doesn't mean that you won't come into contact with somebody the next day and become positive. But if you continue to practice social distancing, the hand washing, the face mask, etc., we know that your chances are much lower. So we have to empower ourselves by our behavior, and we have to empower the community by ensuring that we get the testing to the individuals. As we begin to do that, we are going to continue to see this flattening. And eventually we will get to the point where either we have herd immunity, where everybody's gotten infected. A lot of people have gotten infected, and the chances of them infecting someone is low because they already have antibodies, or we have a vaccine. And so, but it's going to take us a while to get there. So my recommendation is that we do things in phases, and we do them using science and information that is guided by science. And so getting back to the communities is equal information that they have to apply in their behavior, and we have to create the opportunity to do testing, baseline testing, and then repeat testing. And then once we are very clear of the sensitivity of the serology testing, we'll be able to do serology testing instead of some of the PCR testing. So we'll be able to know whether or not somebody has antibodies and won't have to necessarily do the PCR testing, but we're not there yet. And so the other thing that I will add that communities can do to empower is when you've had your test, there are going to be opportunities, you all, to participate in research. And now research sometimes in some of our communities is a scary thing. But research is how we answer hypothetical questions. So if I wanted to know what is the timeline from when I had a temperature spike to when I turned positive for the virus, or then when I developed antibodies, you would have to give us permission to first know that you were tested, the results of your test, and then we would have to get information about what happened to you in the intervening days. We won't learn everything we need to know about this virus, particularly based on who has the virus, if we don't have more people to participate in research. So it's not just about getting tested, but if you have diabetes and hypertension and somebody just has, let's say they have asthma, and we want to know, are there differences in how your symptoms appear? Are there differences in the time frame that you become positive to when you develop immunity or antibodies? We won't know that if you don't participate in research. We won't know if there are real other differences between being black and white and getting the disease if you don't participate in research.
And I have a question right now for Tom, and this is from Kathleen Bryant, and she asked, what percentage of people were found positive in the homeless population?
That's a great question. I'm happy to report it's a very low number. Of the over 2,800 tests that we did, less than 2% were found to be positive. And we attribute a lot of that to the fact that the shelters did a really good job of isolating people in those shelters and not letting new people in, unfortunately. But also the unsheltered population being outside, and a lot of the education and training by the outreach workers about social distancing with that population really seemed to have helped. But we also did this early on. We started April 7th. That's why the retesting that we're beginning to do going forward next week is really important, because there could be more spread of the virus since we did that initial test.
Cares had to reinvent themselves, and obviously telehealth is now huge. How is that going for Mercy Care, transitioning to telehealth?
It's been a bumpy ride. Our behavioral health program was already fully set up for behavioral health, so they're running at about 80 to 90% capacity, which is great. The primary care was lagging a little bit behind. I think by probably the end of May, we'll be really in a good place. We've got all of our equipment in, and we're placing that equipment strategically out into the community, including into some of the shelters. So I think that we'll be good, but it's taking us a little while to ramp that up.
And on that, most organizations, most healthcare organizations have really transitioned to telehealth. Morehouse School of Medicine right now, we're probably doing 50 to 60% of our visits via telehealth. However, there are still patients who need to be seen in person. And so we are going to see an increase in the number of people that we have to see in person because of the chronicity of their disease or the severity of their disease. And so we are doing a combination of both, but it is going to end up with a change. I mean, it is going to be hard for you to ask a person to come in to get a prescription refill when you can ask them those questions over the phone or by a telehealth visit. They're going to say to us now, and we're prepared for this, well, I just want to have my visit by telehealth. And so we're going to be preparing, and we are preparing for the future, in that we're going to probably see over a 50% increase in all of our care being done virtually. And that's actually a good thing.
And then I have another question. I think, John, one more question is what we have time for. Kenneth Alexander says he's talking about nursing homes and how they're really calling on some PPE supplies. And they've been able to facilitate the delivery of some of those supplies. Kenneth Alexander, his church. Are more supplies available for our nursing homes when it comes to PPE? And how has the PPE equipment been on y'all's end at Mercy Care and over at the Morehouse School of Medicine?
So at Morehouse School of Medicine, again, we have had the fortune, because of the hospitals that we work at and because of the generosity of Home Depot and others, we've not had a significant shortage at all of our PPE. We also were able to go to our research laboratories and to acquire PPE from there. We also were able to get the researchers in the Atlanta University Center also gave us gloves and masks, etc. Now, the challenge is the supply chain. I think that it is building up because now we're able to see that we can order and actually get, first of all, somebody on the phone, and then we can actually start to get in shipments. And so we are not seeing the challenge with the PPE at this point. And I'm hoping that the nursing homes and others are, first of all, reaching out to community resources like the companies that have been so generous. And then they are understanding what is the appropriate level of PPE that you need. So, you know, one of the concerns is that, you know, surgical masks and N95 masks really should be in the healthcare setting, and that it is clearly okay for us out in the public to wear our cloth mask. And so if people would use the right type of mask and the right type of PPE in the right environment, I think that would help with some of the supply chain issues.
Totally agree with Dr. Rice. We've done fairly well. Early on, we were struggling. CDC thankfully brought all the PPE for all the mass testing, and Fulton County has also been extremely helpful from the standpoint of providing PPE to the 2 hotels that I mentioned earlier. We've had to close our dental program and our vision program for the most part because of wanting to protect the PPE for the medical side of the house. But I agree with Dr. Rice. We've got to all be conservative and use it correctly.
John, I'm going to get ready to toss it back to you. I'm still seeing a lot more questions flood in right now. We have more than 166 comments just on Facebook alone. And so just to those folks who are chiming in right now and asking questions, we will get to those questions on Facebook. Dr. Rice and Tom, if you guys could jump in on the Westside Future Fund Facebook page and hopefully you're able to answer their questions, we would be very appreciative of that. John, for now, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, thank you. And I just want to say to Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice and to Tom Andrews, thank you. They're both leaders, and I want to express a lot of gratitude because they took some significant time out to participate in our broadcast this morning, significant time out to get ready for this broadcast. But Dr. Rice, one of the things that you said that I really want to commend both of y'all helping us with is equal information. You talked about, and so we really are trying with these Transform Westside Summits, and thanks to your voices, getting out equal information. You also talked about empowerment. And so people with information can be empowered. And certainly we want to hear from our viewers and others about how we can continue to get out equal information and also get it out ways people can hear it, because not everyone's on a live broadcast. People consume information different ways. So thank you for that voice. And thank you. And also want to remind folks that Morehouse School of Medicine and Mercy Care, Good Samaritan, the Yancey Clinic and others are not-for-profit. So if you want to give on Tuesday, these would be great places to give if you're a donor, whether it's $10 or even more. We've heard some of the support they've gotten, but these not-for-profits are doing great work, and hopefully folks can lean into helping them. And so thank you again. I know we'll come back to them hopefully in future Transform Westside Summits, given how important the work they're doing. And now for the remainder of our broadcast, I did some pre-taped interviews, because one of the things I'm very blessed to see, and back to that agape love that Pastor Vickers talked on the beginning of the broadcast, is that neighbor helping neighbor here in the West Side. You know, folks helping each other, leading into their own inherent skill sets, their own inherent passions to help their neighbor. And one of those groups that does such a great job, and if Kenny Alexander, you're still watching, I know you're a big voice for their work, Raising Expectations. And so now we want to turn to a video. We did a pre-taped interview. I did a pre-taped interview a couple days ago with the founders of Raising Expectations. So we can turn to that video now, please.
Hey, so this is John Almond doing more pre-recorded interviews, getting ready for the Transform Westside Summit this Friday. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, and I'm really excited because they do such awesome work serving children in the Booker T. Washington cluster, families in the Booker T. Washington cluster. The founders of Rising Expectations, Maria and Tangee, are here with me. And we're so grateful because we know how many families you serve in the Booker T. Washington cluster. Keep those kids in school and those families healthy and moving. So thank you. And for those that are kind of new to Rising Expectations, could y'all just tell folks, what is Rising Expectations? Like, what do y'all do?
Sure. So Raising Expectations is an academic-based youth development and prevention organization. We've been around for 25 years, been on the West Side since 2004. The mission for our work is basically serving kids that are in under-resourced communities, specifically socially, academically, as well as civically, and raising those expectations and ensuring that they graduate from high school and have post-secondary plans that they can actualize.
Yeah, anything you want to add to that, Maria?
No, that's about it. We've been on the West Side now 15, almost 16 years, serving the students over here, but we've been in business 25. Again, our ultimate goal is to make sure that the children who need the support services the most have people in their corner who can be their champions, their cheerleaders, to help them navigate the difficult waters that exist just with trying to make it through high school and get on to the next phase of life, which is a career and a career pathway that will take care of their families.
So when you think about the families on the West Side that we're supporting 125 young people that represent 74 kids. And we think about the demographic profile of the students that we support, which I think is really important when we talk about how we're providing wraparound supports. So 100% of our kids are on free or reduced lunch. A good number of our kids are coming from households where their parents have interfaced with the criminal system. A good number of our children are actually coming from households that make less than $30,000 a year with an average family size of 5. So we're definitely, with intentionality, targeting families that are probably the ones that will be most impacted, particularly in the COVID times, the new reality, as it were. So I just want to make certain that we provided a good description of the folks that we're supporting.
No, I know, and I appreciate it. And y'all have been, I know, about these West Side neighborhoods for quite some time, so thank you. And I know for folks that want to go check out you're a not-for-profit, you're on the web, Rising Expectations, folks want to Google you and check out your work. If they want to support your work, you can donate because you're a not-for-profit and raising resources to serve these kids and these families, so thank you. And I know, because I've been on some partner calls with y'all, that y'all have not stepped back, but you've stepped up during the COVID, right? That you're really putting, so tell folks real quickly, because you're not running away, right? You're leaning into these kids.
Absolutely. When you know, the call came down and we knew that school was not going to return, I mean, we immediately decided that we needed to sit down and figure out, okay, what do our families need? We needed to make sure that we knew exactly what was going on. And so our staff came up with questionnaire to talk about questions around education and learning and technology, questions around finance and economics, and questions around housing. And so we did this assessment to figure out exactly what our families needed. And from there, we really created a strategy to be able to support our students virtually with learning platforms that the Atlanta Public Schools is already encouraging the students to use. And of course, making sure that our children and families have food, have you know, technology, diapers, all of the resources and items that are needed when dealing with an emergency situation like this.
Yeah, and I know, I want to thank you, and because I know that when you learn kids have other needs, you know, that the family needs, whether that's food, shelter, you step into that. So thank you. And I know, because we talked before we did this taped interview, that y'all might be able to use some, and we got a great donation. I had it mailed to my home from Iris Feinberg yesterday, masks. So we're going to give some of these masks to keep y'all safe.
Thank you for that.
And I think too, and I know y'all do so much great work that we want to have you back soon to kind of talk about where the kids are, right? So will y'all come back and give everyone an update in a couple of weeks so we can keep up to speed?
Would love to, and we would be remiss if we did not shout out to our team, which without whom we would not, none of this work would be possible, and also to our families, quite frankly. We approach our work from a very familial kind of an aspect. It's about the longitudinal relationships we have with our children and families. So they're just not people that we are honored to serve, but they're part of our family unit, and so we want to make certain that that message is communicated as well.
All right, well, that's great. And I know your whole team is up on the website because I was checking it out. So you have your team up there. You do look like you got a great team. And I just want to express our gratitude for y'all joining us today. And I hope y'all both stay safe. And I know we'll be checking in with you soon. So thanks to you both.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, John. We appreciate it.
Looking forward to catching back up. Take care.
All right, Maria and Tangee, if you're watching, great interview. Thank you. And I know one of the locations that they operate out of is the At Promise Center in English Avenue. So thank you, At Promise Center, led by the Atlanta Police Foundation. I know Chris 180 is another big partner at the At Promise Center. So thank you. Another great not-for-profit, and we wanted to really feature this one because folks that need help getting a hold of the unemployment benefits offered by the United States federal government, the state government, folks that haven't got maybe that check they thought they might get, this is a resource that can help them, the On the Rise Financial Center. So we're going to roll to a video to hear about the On the Rise Financial Center and the great work that they're doing.
But I'm here with Beverly Westbrooks with the On the Rise Financial Center. Thank you so much for being here virtually. And first, for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about who you are and what the On the Rise Financial Center, because it's a very exciting resource for our community on the West Side.
First, John, hello, and thank you for having us. I am a coaching specialist at On the Rise Financial Center. We provide group and one-to-one coaching for people in the West Side community.
Yeah, what's really important is the On the Rise Financial Center is a not-for-profit. So your whole purpose is to help people, but you know, often you're helping people for free, but it's really you're here to help, which is different often than, you know, we love our banks and everything, but y'all have a kind of a different purpose as a not-for-profit, right?
Yes, it is a free service. Oftentimes people don't know what to ask. They don't know who to ask when it comes to their finances. So we provide a free service that is in a safe environment where they have the ability to do so.
Yeah, we really want to give a thanks. I know kind of your leader, Anna Foote's doing a great job. And I know y'all have been set up with a lot of support with our with Equifax and the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation. So thank you, because and also Inclusive, your national supporter, right? You want to tell folks real quickly what Inclusive is, so folks know about that?
Inclusive is our parent organization, yes.
Yeah, and they've really stood, and we appreciate them helping get this off the ground. But I know one of the things that I was excited about is a lot of folks on the West Side qualify for the resources coming from the federal government. But one thing we've learned, actually I learned this from Anna, is that in order for people to receive those benefits, especially kind of the check, they need to file their taxes and also the unemployment. But if folks are having trouble filing their taxes, never file their taxes, y'all can help them with that, right?
Right. We offer a host of services, and one of those is in a one-to-one coaching session, sitting down with individuals and assisting them through the process of, if they have not filed their taxes, how they can still do so and do it at free so that it does not affect how they'll get their stimulus check.
Well, that's awesome. I'm going to do the share screen so people can see where to go. And I'm starting it now. And then, so this is your website, right, Beverly, that we're looking at?
Yes. So our website is ontherisefc.org, and anyone who is interested can go to our site. It'll show them all of the services that we offer. And on our site as well, you can schedule an appointment. You just click the link that says schedule an appointment, and it'll take you to where you need to go.
So yeah, that's exciting, because I know I've referred folks and know they can schedule an appointment. You do an appointment virtually online, and if people are having trouble, because it can sometimes be confusing to file their taxes, they can schedule an appointment, and y'all can literally kind of walk them through that to really help them to do that, right? That's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Normally, we would be having face-to-face consultation, but COVID-19 has brought us some new challenges, but I think we've been able to address those through virtual face-to-face classes, virtual face-to-face coaching sessions.
Yeah, so here's the website. I would encourage people to check it out. I'm gonna stop the share now. But one of the things y'all do such a great job of is, you know, people get the online coaching, but people can continue to come back to you to kind of learn the habits of financial wellness, right? You help people do budgets, help people save. You know, we're really excited that we partner with y'all through our Home on the Westside program. So people come to you for financial coaching. Maybe people want to save to help buy a home. I mean, y'all can help with all that, right? It's all.
Absolutely. We sit down with individuals on a one-to-one basis. We can do credit pulls. We can sit down and work with budgets, develop saving plans. We know that COVID-19 has brought us unusual circumstances again, and it's not a matter of if something's going to happen, it's only a matter of when. So we push really hard that clients or individuals in the community save as much as they can, so that when we have times like this, they're able to still be able to move forward.
Yeah, and also, you know, I'm trying to do a better job, save for retirement and other things we want to do in life. And but we're really grateful, and I want to express my appreciation about the Westside Future Fund that we partner with the On the Rise Center. So if folks go to our Home on the Westside program and they need some financial coaching, we refer them right to y'all as a great partner with us. And then y'all can help coach people. Maybe people are renting and need to help start savings, et cetera. And that's all stuff y'all can do as part of helping, you know, people improve their credit score, all these things, refer people to banks if they don't have a bank account. Y'all can do all those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I just want to express my gratitude. And as we close up our interview, we're going to have y'all back because you're such an important partner on the West Side in our collective effort. So thank you. And as we go for anything you want folks to know, but we'll definitely be having more of y'all on our virtual summit. But anything as we close out our interview, you want to make sure people were watching and listening?
Well, we always understand from our perspective that not having finances or resources can be a burden on individuals and the greater community, and we are here to help and support in any way that we can. Thank you for having us, and we're glad to have you as a partner as well.
All right, well, you're here to help. Those are awesome words, here to help. So thank you, and hope you and your family stay safe. Thank you for joining this online interview, and I'm gonna stop it now. And thank you, Beverly. Thank you to your team.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that interview. And also, they're going to be having a permanent home soon in 2020 at the Quest Center for Not-for-Profit Change in Vine City. So thank you, Leonard Adams and the Quest Center. And now, one of the folks that have been really hard hit by the business, especially in the West Side, are small businesses. And in our next Transform Westside Summit, 2 weeks from now, we really want to talk about that. We're planning on broadcasting from the Russell Innovation Center and Entrepreneurship. And I want to roll to a video that I did with Jay Bailey, who leads that center, and the great work they're doing on behalf of small businesses on the West Side. So let's roll to that video, please.
So I'm doing an interview with Jay Bailey, the president and CEO of the Russell Center for Innovation. And we're really excited because on our Transform Summit on May 15th, we're going to have Jay back live with Vanessa Harrison from AT&T talking about small business. We wanted to check in with Jay now. And first, Jay, just, you know, personally, tell folks how you're doing. How are you, your family?
Man, I'm so good, John. It's so good to be here. Thank you for the reminder of what day and what day it is on the calendar, man. It gets kind of blurry. We are good. And it's funny that my wife and I just drove around the West Side on Sunday, spent the whole day driving around. We're recently now property owners over there. We found her grandmother's house that she grew up in the 20s and 30s and purchased it. But it reminds us how blessed we are. But it also reminds us how tough it is out there for a lot of people. So we've tripled down our resolve to help and to be a part of the solution. If the disparities in our community were large 6 months ago, you got to know that that's increased 100-fold. So the work that we do at the Russell Center is even more critical now than it's ever been. So our capacity to help people has gone through the roof.
And tell us, because a lot of people don't know, and you're right, man, that the disparities that have been inherent to the West Side, unfortunately, this crisis is going to really impact those who disproportionately suffer, are going to suffer even more, which is just tragic. And I know the Russell Center has a special place. So for those that don't know, real quickly, tell us, and we're going to hear a lot more about it in a couple weeks.
Sure.
But the Russell Center for Innovation has a very special mission.
Well, I mean, Atlanta should be really proud in honor of one of the greatest entrepreneurs this city has ever produced. H.J. Russell, Herman Russell. Think of a young man who grew up in the Jim Crow segregated South, but at one point it created the 4th largest African-American owned business in the country. In his honor, taking the building that he built brick by brick, 54,000 square feet. It will be the largest center in America dedicated to providing the resources, the access, the readiness for Black business, entrepreneurs, dreamers, job creators, a real resource to bring the best in the country under one roof. We're still under construction. However, even under construction, we're still helping anywhere from 300 to 500 people per week. And we're not even open in this virtual time that we're in right now.
Well, that's what we want to hear more about in a couple of weeks. And I also want to just thank the Russell family for doing this, this legacy project. I know the whole family's involved. We're very lucky in the Westside Future Fund to have Sylvia Russell, but y'all are such a voice, and we know that your voice is going to be, and all the work of the Russell Center is going to be even more important than it was. And that's why we're going to be looking forward to having you back in a couple of weeks to talk live about it.
Man.
I just want to say thank you for here. That you and your wife and family stay safe. We're excited. It's great hearing about you were able to get a hold of your family home there in English Avenue. So that's going to be terrific. So any final words, Jed? We're ready to wind it up if you're good.
Well, man, I'm honored to be partnered and locked arms with you, John. You're doing incredible work on the West Side. Our community for the longest time has not had the advocacy that it needed to be transformative. Entrepreneurs and small business owners need access. And we want to be that triage, that portal to connect them to the type of resources they need to endure this pandemic. So it's our mission to be an economic mobility engine. And when our community needs to make a call, when they need help, when they don't know, when they need direction, and when they need a path, the Russell Center, our primary focus is to be that call that they can make to connect them to what they need to make it happen.
We're going to look forward to having you live so people can make that call in a couple of weeks and talk to you live virtually. So thank you. And that's such an important thing. I love that, man. And thank you for your voice and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, John. And you stay safe, brother. We need you. The community needs you. Looking forward to it in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Russell Center. Literally, it's about a 20-minute walk from my house, the Russell Center for Innovation. Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia Russell, for serving on our board. And we're a couple minutes past 9. For those that are used to me stopping at 9, apologies. Hopefully we're saving your commute time, so you give me a little forgiveness on going past 9. We had a lot of important information to get out there. And I just want to say, on behalf of the Westside Future Fund, to all our many partners, many who I didn't have a chance to mention, those that I did mention, just thank you. I am inspired every day by being around such great leaders. Thank you to Tom and Andrews and Dr. Valerie and Montgomery Rice for being on our broadcast. Y'all can't see them, but the TMPVA crew is in my living room. They came in yesterday to set up along with Icon. Thank you all. Thank you, Craig Lucy. And Gandhi had a quote, someone that Dr. King studied, and the quote I love to think about and draw inspiration from is, compassion is a muscle you need to exercise. And I think for me in this COVID-19 crisis this is time to exercise that compassion muscle. And we heard from so many today that are really doing that. And so thank you. And I know to close out, we're going to go to Craig. I think we got a couple of final videos, especially one around the testing at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So thank you everyone for their broadcast today, and be back with us in 2 weeks, and stay safe.
Yeah, John, I was going to mention that we have our Westside Future Fund Transform the Westside Summit Facebook group. We're closing in on 30 members right there, and I did do a screen record. Pull that up for us, guys, if you can. And basically, this is just a safe, transparent way for everybody to come together. It's also a space to celebrate, inspire, and just continue the work to revitalize the West Side into what we say, John, a community that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would be proud to call home. It is open to everybody on the historic West Side, or for people who have attended our summits at the gathering spot. And those of you joining us online, make sure that you join that group. We'd love to hear your personal stories as we all fight this pandemic together. The other thing that I do want to mention, if we can go ahead and pull this up as well, is the free COVID-19 testing that started yesterday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So this is in partnership with the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, Fulton County, the City of Atlanta, brought to you by CORE, which stands for the Community Organized Release Effort. Again, free COVID testing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It is at the Home Depot backyard, which is right there next to Mercedes-Benz, where everybody likes to tailgate before Falcons games. And then it started yesterday, and it will be going on basically throughout the pandemic. It starts at 10 a.m., so it's going to get underway here in less than an hour, and it lasts until 4 o'clock. And to get an appointment, you can register by going to atlanta.curativeinc.com/welcome to get that appointment time. It is drive-up, walk-up testing. If you do test positive, they will connect you with medical personnel right there on the spot. Also, if you need to reach out to the Good Samaritan Health Center's hotline, that number is 404-523-6571 with the extension of 4928. And so definitely, if you need to go get tested there, Mercedes-Benz Stadium at the Home Depot backyard. John, I'll actually send it back to you so that you can now close it out.
All right. Well, I thought I'd closed it out, but thank you. All right. So that free testing is a big, big, big deal. And actually, the thing I was thinking about in learning the lessons of making sure people can get to our summit is how we need to make sure that people that may not have a car, maybe too far away to walk up to that clinic, can get to it. So maybe that's something we can be thinking about, how to help provide that service. And so thank you for that free testing. And again, thank you for this time. Sorry we're a little bit past 9 o'clock. But we're going to go ahead and close out. I think we're going to roll to a closeout video. And again, thank you for everyone that viewed. We really want to do this to serve. And so if you have ideas about how we can make this better, how we can improve, we really want to hear that. So let us know. Please check out our Facebook group, and please continue to lean into each other during this COVID-19 crisis. And thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Yessie.
Hi, my name is Brandy.
Hi, I'm Veronica.
Hi, I'm Ian.
Hi, I'm Nobi.
Hi, I'm Erica.
Hi, I'm Natalia. Hi, this is Lizette.
Hi, my name is Wendy.
Hi, I'm Brianna.
I'm Patricia.
My name is Atiana. I like to keep myself healthy and our patients healthy by wearing an N95 mask.
With this nice weather we've been having, I've been trying to get outside and go for a walk every day.
One thing I'm doing to stay healthy during this pandemic is I'm getting my steps in. Now, I know not all of you have access to a treadmill or exercise equipment like this, but one thing you can do is go ahead, stand up. Walk a few laps around the inside of your house or apartment. It could be good for you and your family, and especially beneficial to those of you that are working from home. Stay healthy, Atlanta.
And to stay healthy, I'm making masks for everyone here.
And I'm wearing one of Wendy's masks.
This is Alexis. We are the farmers over at Good Sam. And something we're doing to stay healthy during the COVID-19 is making sure we're eating a lot of our leafy greens to keep our immune system strong.
I'm currently ensuring that I wash my hands frequently for at least 20 seconds to stay healthy during the COVID-19 crisis.
The one thing I'm doing at home to stay safe is I'm playing trivia with my family.
What I do to stay healthy is keep
my hands nice and clean and keep a mask on at all times when approaching patients.
One thing my family and I have changed is that we go shopping for food just once a week, and then we bring a bag of all the groceries that my mom needs for the week because she's over 60, and we leave it on her doorstep so that she doesn't have contact with us and she doesn't have to go to the store where she could be exposed.
Wash my hands pretty well, take my vitamin C every day, my green tea, a lot of water.
One thing I do to stay healthy is to change out of my work clothes before I go home.